gentlemen, welcome to tonight's debate. My name is Madison Mitchell-Smith and I am the chairman, and Lars Thomas England is the timekeeper. This debate will be judged by a panel of 3 adjudicators who are Miss France and Miss Boyd-Turner. The topic of this debate is that Australia should adopt 15-minute cities. The affirmative team seated to my right is from Glenunga International High School. The negative team seated to my left is from Adelaide High School. The speaking time for this debate is 6 minutes with a double bell at the end of your speaking time. A warning bell will ring once at 5 minutes. A continuous bell will ring 30 seconds after the final bell. I declare this, please switch off your mobile phones and other electronic devices. I declare this debate open. I call upon the first affirmative speaker, Addison Fan.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for our debate is that Australia should adopt 15-minute cities. We define the topic as follows. According to the Oxford Dictionary, should is used to show what is right and appropriate, while adopt is to start using a particular method or formally accept a suggestion. According to ABC News, 15-minute cities is an urban planning concept where neighborhoods provide residents with the basic things that they need, such as shops, schools, parks, leisure options, and health care, within a 15-minute radius by foot or bike. In this context, Australia adopting the concept of 15-minute cities would equate to modification to existing urban areas that allow for more accessible local services and amenities. We, the affirmative team, believe that this statement is true. I'm going to discuss 2 points. The first point I want to deliver is that the implementation of 15-minute cities will result in lower carbon footprint and prompt positive impacts for the environment. As the world is coming closer to breach the 1.5C threshold in the next 5 years, per The Guardian, catastrophic weather events and irreversible climate changes are to happen if immediate policies and actions are not made. According to the World Bank, cities account for over 70% of global CO2 emissions, most of which come from industrial and motorized transport systems that use huge quantities of fossil fuels and rely on infrastructure constructed with carbon-intensive materials. Therefore, effort to decarbonize cities inevitably consists of mitigating carbon emissions from transport systems, which means giving priority to public transport and limiting private vehicle use, as cars represent the largest source of emissions in the transport sector in Australia, according to climate analytics. The 15-minute city proposal is in total support of this transition, as restrictions on private cars are imposed and existing pedestrian and cycling routes are strengthened to reduce congestion. Moreover, the ability to obtain necessities and access amenities within close distance minimizes the need for a car drive and reduces dependency on cars. This will significantly lower carbon emissions and improve air quality in the area, as demonstrated by how the capital of India observed the smog dissipated and the sky cleared up just after weeks of pandemic lockdowns. As mentioned in BBC News, a study led by Dr. Gutti Kunda on air quality in Delhi revealed a substantial dip in levels of PM 22.5 and PM 10, which mostly come from combustion of automobiles and vehicular emissions. As nearly 90% of vehicles were off the road, this research suggests that there's a strong correlation between air quality improvement and decreased traffic use. With well-developed transportation systems and diminished need for car travel, the 15-minute city concept does not only minimize environmental impacts, but also provide sustainability in the long term. Now to my second point. The 15-minute city concept will benefit individuals' physical and mental health tremendously and embraces the well-being of community members. As routes for active transportation are rearranged and redesigned for greater accessibility, this allows for greater mobility and increased diversity in commute choices as for a wider community. From lower socioeconomic households that cannot afford a car to elderly people and wheelchair users, everyone has the ability to self-locate to their desired location within 15 minutes. Furthermore, as people are more incentivized to work or cycle due to close travel distance and upgraded infrastructure. Individuals will engage in more physical activity during their daily commute. According to a comparative analysis on walking and cycling as a form of transport by John Butcher et al., individuals who work or cycle to work are more likely to achieve recommended levels of physical activity and are linked to lower levels of obesity and diabetes. Moreover, as suggested by research conducted by the Conversation, short distance and active travel commuters to work reported they were relaxed, enthusiastic, and satisfied with their commuting trips, thus improving productivity at work. The expansion of active transportation also means less roads are dedicated to cars, thus there will be less traffic that contributes to noise pollution. Indeed, a study published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology has shown the link between noise pollution from internal combustion engine vehicle traffic and increased levels of hypertension and cardiovascular disease. These statistics serve to demonstrate how increased active transport and decreased motor vehicles simultaneously improve physical and mental health and decrease medical risk within the community. Moreover, according to ABC News, a car is parked 95% of the time, coupled with the fact that 27 and 30,000 square kilometers are devoted to parking in the US and Europe, respectively. Cars use up scarce real estate that could have been designated for other purposes. The 15-minute city proposal could turn these spaces into public and community spaces, such as parks, squares, and plazas, to promote social interaction and relationship formations. Additionally, former parking lots could be used to build green spaces by growing trees, flowers, and vegetables which provide natural cooling of air and support water management in urban areas. These spaces offer valuable opportunities for residents to foster community bonds through the exchange of social, cultural, and cultural experiences, thus engaging in the positive feedback loop of emotional and physical well-being. So, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, adopting the 15-minute city concept will significantly increase environmental sustainability and enhance quality of life within the community. Thank you.
I call upon the first negative speaker, Rebecca Ludstone.
Good evening, Madam Chairperson, timekeeper and spectators. The topic of this debate is that Australia should adopt 15-minute cities. We as the negative team firmly believe that this statement is wrong. We agree with the definition given by the affirmative team. Before I begin my team split, I will refute claims made by the affirmative team. The first speaker has said that the decreased car usage and the promotion of eco-friendly transportation modes contribute to lower carbon footprint, aiding in the fight against climate change. However, the success of reducing greenhouse gas emissions depends on the broader context of environmental policies and technological advancements. While 15-minute cities can encourage eco-friendly transportation, they may not directly address issues like the carbon footprint of the existing vehicles, or perhaps on an even larger scale, industrial emissions, which also contribute significantly to climate change. She has also said that 15-minute cities will enable a healthier community. However, health is influenced by a multitude of factors, including personal choices and even the socio-economic conditions. As the first speaker of the negative team, I will discuss how this has highlighted the fact that adopting 15-minute cities in Australia may be impractical owing to the dependency on vehicles, limited resources, and significant budgetary hardship. I will also discuss the geographical challenges that Australia has, such as rural places and Indigenous land issues, which make the 15-minute city concept less practical and more difficult to execute. Our second speaker will argue that the 15-minute city concept is unneeded in Australia owing to its different environment and varying population densities, making a one-size-fits-all approach impractical. Her second point will highlight how the 15-minute cities will not live up to what it promises due to society and economic segregation. Finally, the third speaker of the negative team will rebut and sum up our team case. My first point is that the implementation of the 15-minute cities in Australia faces significant feasibility challenges, making it an impractical goal to implement into Australia's urban planning. According to National Geographic, cities have historically thrived as efficient centres of trade, culture, and opportunity. The economic efficiency of large cities where businesses and commerce are centralised reduces the need for extensive travel between distant urban hubs. The University of Griffith emphasises that the reliance on vehicles such as cars and buses or trains for commuting is the norm for most Australians. However, the implementation of 15-minute cities would increase cycling and walking, but this may not be a feasible mode of transportation for each individual. This could be for a multitude of reasons, such as mobility impairments, physical disabilities, or general health issues, and the loss of imperative transportation methods that many currently rely on could come at the detriment of numerous Australians. Considering historical trends, cities have grown based on the efficiency and economic viability. Civilization's progress has been marked by the growth of urban centres that facilitate commerce, innovation, and social interaction. The concept of smaller cities may run counter to this historical trend, potentially impeding economic development and progress. To my second point, the geographical challenges proposed by the uniqueness of Australia that should not be compromised. The concept of 15-minute cities promising sustainable urban living encounters formidable geographic challenges in Australia. The nation's unique geography, featuring remote areas, vast deserts, and rugged terrains, presents significant hurdles. An article from the Medium this year underscored these challenges, highlighting the canyon effect, where overcrowded, tall buildings create microclimates, with temperature fluctuations, wind swells, and reduced light levels and compromised air quality negatively impacting city dwellers. Moreover, Australia's diverse geography, encompassing deserts, remote rural towns, and challenging terrains, complicates applying the 15-minute city model in sparsely populated regions, making it economically unviable. Water scarcity in many areas adds another layer of complexity, necessitating costly water infrastructure investments. Unsuitable terrains like Adelaide's clay grounds impede tunnel construction, a vital component of 15-minute cities like Paris heavily rely on, resulting in increased construction costs and timelines. Given these geographical realities, the possibility of 15-minute cities in Australia is not realistic. The potential conflict arising from the 15-minute city concept emphasises urban development and the imperative to protect and honour Indigenous lands. Implementing this model in such areas risks displacement, cultural disruption, and environmental harm, particularly in remote, sparsely populated regions. It is paramount to respect Indigenous rights and land stewardship in any discussion of Australian urban development. Striking a balance between sustainable urban growth and the preservation of Indigenous lands is essential to safeguard the well-being and cultural continuity of Indigenous communities while advancing broader urban sustainability goals. These considerations underscore the complex challenges that Australia faces in adopting the 15-minute city model and overall adds to the conclusion that Australia should not accept 15-minute cities. So, Madam Chairperson, Timekeeper and spectators, in conclusion, Australia should not adopt 15-minute cities as it is simply not feasible. This is not a one-size-fits-all concept. This idea must address the practical challenges related to transportation, infrastructure, and economic viability. Aligning in 15-minute cities with economic and historical urbanisation realities is vital to prevent harm to society and progress. Why create a system to fix something that is not broken? Thank you.
Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, tonight's debate topic is that Australia should adopt 15-minute cities. As the Affirmative team, we believe that this statement is quite true. However, before I get to my points, I'd like to propose a few rebuttals. The first negative speaker has stated that people rely on cars to go to places that are far spread apart. While this may be true, it is important to note that 15-minute cities do not altogether restrict the movement of cars, and also 15-minute cities offer local conveniences, but these are optional to be used. People still have the freedom to go elsewhere for their local option, for their needs, thereby making this claim invalid. Additionally, the first negative speaker has also stated that employing 15-minute cities will have difficulty with rural areas and indigenous terrain. However, our first affirmative speaker has clearly stated that 15-minute cities are meant to be implemented in current cities. They are called 15-minute cities. They are meant to be applied to normal suburbs and neighborhoods. Therefore, their claim is invalid as per our definition. Today, I will be discussing 2 points. The first point that I would like to discuss is the convenience that 15-minute cities offer to the table, and how they effectively aim to eliminate traffic congestion by promoting other travel methods. Modern-day cities that have not adopted the 15-minute city formula are too heavily reliant on cars as the main means of transport at the expense of micromobility, which is defined as light transport such as electric bikes and electric scooters, according to the Oxford Dictionary. This creates urban sprawl, which is defined as the expansion of urban areas, requiring the need for private transport, according to Britannica. This urban sprawl has caused cities to expand and disconnect away from the city center just to accommodate the sheer congestion and number of cars on the road, making travel more inconvenient in cities. In fact, according to the ABC, the average urban Australian spends over 5 hours commuting to work each week, primarily due to traffic congestion, and this situation only worsens during weekends with additional leisure drives. Cities have also experienced increased congestion and decreased average speeds. For instance, Adelaide's car traffic averages just 39 kilometers per hour, nearly 30% slower than the capital city average of 54.5 kilometers per hour on major routes. Australia's overall congestion statistics have deteriorated by 7.3% across its cities, according to the AAA. However, the prospects of 15-minute cities aim to lessen the inconveniences caused by congestion, as the Financial Times reported how 15-minute cities eliminate unnecessary and elongated travel requirements by reducing traffic congestion while simultaneously boosting a neighborhood's living standards. This is because there is now a quicker fulfillment of essential needs such as work, food, shopping, and entertainment. Additionally, according to an article titled Future Transport by the New South Wales Government, one such way that 15-minute cities aim to reduce congestion and make it convenient to travel around. They aim to feature multiple shops, canopy covers, and shades, quality public spaces, and well-designed pathways that host activities that bring people onto the streets. These are completely valid reasons stated by the New South Wales Future Transport article. After all, the addition of multiple local shops would only incentivize more people to use these as opposed to driving all the way to the other side of town and back just for their groceries and needs. It would allow people to, therefore 15-minute cities would allow people to make more efficient use of their weeks in a more convenient way. Therefore, this explains why adopting the 15-minute cities is a good idea. Now, as they all say, time is money, and saving time is saving money, which leads me to my second point, that adopting 15-minute cities in Australia would allow these areas to boost their economy due to there being more local offerings. Such additions would only increase community engagement within that area, but it would also boost the economy in the area. People would already be incentivized to invest and spend money with convenient local offerings. In fact, according to a survey conducted by the Statistical Research Department in June 2022, it revealed that over 70% out of 2,000 respondents preferred to buy local products. Therefore, by giving them even more localized products and services, people would make use of these as 15-minute cities cut down on their travel time, giving them more time to spend at home or in their local area, as people are less busy and have time to discover what's available in their local neighborhood, according to Carlos Moreno, a professor of complex systems and innovation at the University of Paris Panthéon-Sorbonne, in an interview with the BBC. Additionally, 15-minute cities would prioritize micromobility and pedestrian activity. Recent studies have shown that more bike and pedestrian traffic in cities saves money, as less is spent on road maintenance. The positive effects of cycling are being estimated at more than $96 billion in the Europe alone. By comparison, normal congestion traffic costs more than $850 billion in costs for health, environment, and infrastructure every year. And the economic benefits of 15-minute cities have already been seen in the US city of Portland after they introduced the 15-minute city concept. They saw a 20% drop in car traffic, leading to an additional $1.2 billion staying in the local economy, according to DW.com. It only serves to show the benefits to the economy and local community that a 15-minute city offers, as more money is being saved, which can go towards funding these local businesses, allowing them to focus on quality or towards development of other important infrastructure within the city. So, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, the adoption of 15-minute cities in Australia presents a compelling solution to several urban challenges. They offer unmatched convenience, reducing the annoyances of congestion and long commutes, while simultaneously fostering the development of local communities, thereby creating a more sustainable future.
I call upon the second negative speaker, Amber Nye.
Good evening, Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for tonight's debate is that Australia should adopt 15-minute cities. We, the negative team, firmly believe that this statement is false. The first negative speaker has tried to argue that 15-minute cities will promote health and well-being. However, improving public health relies on more factors rather than just environment. Broader strategies should be considered that don't cost as much as complete structural renovation, such as education, public programs, and government-funded advertising. The first speaker has also tried to argue that 15-minute cities will reduce carbon emissions. However, this is incorrect, as it should be recognized that in order to achieve the goal, it will require significant changes in cultural norms and behavior. Transitioning to alternative transportation modes like cycling, walking, or public transit often involves a major shift in individual preferences and transportation habits. Not everyone will find this drastic change feasible. The second negative speaker has said that implementing 15-minute cities can significantly alleviate traffic congestion, long commutes, and urban sprawl. However, as our first speaker mentioned, while reducing long commutes and traffic congestion is an admirable aim, it may not entirely eliminate the need for car travel, particularly for those in more distant or less densely populated areas. Rural or suburban regions may not be as amenable to the 15-minute city model, potentially leaving some individuals with no choice but to continue long commutes. The second negative speaker has also tried to argue that 15-minute cities will provide economic benefits. This is wrong because, as I will mention in my argument, this very economic growth may not benefit everyone, including vulnerable and marginalised communities. Our first speaker has already discussed the feasibility of such a project in Australia's current state. She also mentioned the geographical challenges behind the proposed 15-minute cities, such as rural towns and deserts. Tonight, I will be discussing 2 points. My first point is that the 15-minute city concept for Australia is simply unnecessary, as it does not account for population density and adaptability. A national approach to a project of such a large scale conflicts with Australia's city liaison operations. There may be unprecedented long-term civil and economic effects, especially since Australia has very different populations and lifestyles relative to each area. According to the official Worldometer, Australia has one of the lowest population densities in the world, with a combined average of 3 people per kilometre squared. Australia has unique desert conditions that make areas very different to other countries and less viable for a 15-minute city plan, especially when considering individual cities. Larger cities such as Melbourne, Adelaide and Sydney have the highest population densities of around 400 inhabitants per kilometre squared, whereas smaller areas such as Darwin and Hobart have only 50 per kilometre squared. It would be extremely challenging to accommodate these prominent differences around Australia, not to mention the numerous remote communities like Wollongong and Broome. How can this one-size-fits-all approach possibly be applied to all of these places in Australia? Furthermore, Paris, a city where the 15-minute design was adopted, has over 20,600 inhabitants per kilometre squared, significantly exceeding the density of most Australian cities. The design was conceived in Europe for cities like Paris and Barcelona that have high population, limited space, and architecture that dates before the widespread use of cars. Australian towns are not built to accommodate 15-minute cities in the same manner. Additionally, all of these areas are so vastly different in layout and functionality. For example, Sydney and Melbourne are centrally focused on their CBD, whereas Adelaide is more suburban. The administration of such an extensive plan is impractical as it does not correspond with Australia's distinct cities and towns. Adopting 15-minute cities in Australia is unnecessary and unrealistic due to variability across different areas of the country. To my second point, 15-minute cities will not perform as desired due to an existing wealth disparity within Australia. The impact of this will be extremely divergent, depending on the wealth of the communities. Attempting to provide new facilities for all areas will inevitably result in differences in the quality of these amenities, reinforcing already existing economic divides. The University of Melbourne writes in an article on urban inequality that in the 1970s, Australia was founded on spatial wealth segregation, which has only grown since. Due to quality of services, differences in infrastructure and housing, wealth increases in richer suburbs and poverty rises in poorer suburbs. It would be impossible to create the ideal 15-minute cities without continuing this cycle of reserved wealth. According to Jay Pitter, a public space designer, the proposal does not account for histories of urban inequality imposed by historical colonial planning approaches such as segregated suburbs, discriminatory policing, and amenity quality. Poorer communities in Australia already suffer from higher crime rates and substandard services, which would only be intensified by this socio-economic segregation. In order to realistically improve the quality and accessibility of services in all areas, the issue should be approached with equitable solutions instead of one all-encompassing concept. So, Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, we the Negative team firmly believe that adopting 15-minute cities in Australia is unpractical and unnecessary. Thank you.
I call upon the third affirmative speaker, Tehan Pereira.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for tonight's debate is that Australia should adopt 15-minute cities. We, the negative team believe that this statement is unequivocally true. The first negative speaker stated that 15-minute cities are very impractical. This is completely false, as several countries in the world have already successfully adopted concepts similar to 15-minute cities. This is especially the case with Portland, a city which set a goal for 90% of its residents to live within a 20-minute neighborhood in 2009. An article by the Washington State University explored how successfully this goal was achieved after a decade by measuring accessibility to various public places and amenities. These researchers concluded that the adoption of the 20-minute city idea improved accessibility and partially reduced greenhouse gases from vehicles, meaning the concept was successfully adopted. According to Lee Flannery from the Planetarium, the adoption of the 15-minute city concept transformed various parts of Paris from, quote, car-reliant spirals of streets to a series of self-sustainable communities dedicated to people rather than cars. Hence, evidence clearly shows that the concept of 15-minute cities has already been successfully adopted in several cities, meaning it is a very practical solution to several global issues. Hence, Australia should adopt 15-minute cities. The first negative speaker also stated that people with disabilities could be negatively affected by 15-minute cities. This is false. While 15-minute cities do discourage car and motorized vehicle use, people in need will still be able to use cars to travel. As ABC explained, 15-minute cities, quote, create more choice and more freedom to choose. This clearly describes how 15-minute cities will not restrict traveling in cars, but rather, people will be given more choice regarding their modes of transportation. Therefore, the negative speaker's argument is invalid. The second negative speaker has said that 15-minute cities might promote, quote, urban inequality. This is false. The current inequality in access to amenities in various cities is the issue 15-minute cities aim to fix. According to the National Library of Medicine, poorer cities and regions are more likely to, quote, lack core services including education, health, and financial support. And C40 Knowledge Hub states that they also have higher rates of air pollution than wealthier regions. Let me remind you that the sole purpose of 15-minute cities is to improve access to these amenities and reduce air pollution by reducing cars and motorized vehicles. This means that 15-minute cities aim to improve living conditions even for people living in poverty-stricken areas. Therefore, 15-minute cities do not promote classism and inequality, but rather, they reduce it. The second negative speaker has also tried to tell you in her rebuttal that 15-minute cities, quote, restrict choice and cause a major shift in individual habits. However, this claim is completely false. On the contrary, 15-minute cities will provide more choice and more freedom for individuals, as it will open up the choice of riding a bicycle or walking to places rather than always using a car. In fact, ABC News explained how 15-minute cities, quote, create more choice and more freedom to choose. Alice Dubois, co-founder of Fridays for Future France, states that the idea of 15-minute cities does not mean segregation or isolation, but rather it reopens our minds and imagination to create, quote, better living places. Furthermore, 15-minute cities reduce the time lost over getting to grocery shops, schools, recreation, and healthcare facilities, giving us more choice over how and where we spend our time, as explained by C40 Knowledge Hub. Thus, the negative speaker's argument is invalid. Why are we questioning a great concept that could make our lives much, much easier? The first negative speaker stated, briefly, that cars are the norm in Australian society. Not only is this statement very stereotypical, it is also completely false. Australia is a very diverse community, and stating that the Australian lifestyle involves owning cars and living in an urbanized area is very stereotypical. Furthermore, research shows that this point is completely false. A study by carsales.com found that 43% of young Aussies, quote, don't really care about car ownership. This shows that many people are open to the sustainable, environmentally friendly, and convenient lifestyle that 15-minute cities provide. Thus, Australia should adopt 15-minute cities. Our first affirmative speaker has stated that the adoption of 15-minute cities would result in a lower carbon footprint due to less reliance on motor vehicles, a positive impact on climate change, and that 15-minute cities will have various financial and health benefits for individuals. The second affirmative speaker has said that 15-minute cities can improve the convenience of our lives, reduce traffic congestion within the city, and boost local economies. So, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, Australia should adopt 15-minute cities as it has a variety of benefits that overshadow the small disadvantages. Not only does the accessibility of amenities benefit individuals in multiple ways, it also significantly reduces the effects of climate change. As Steve Ballmer, who was the executive director of Microsoft, once said, quote, "Accessible design is good design." Thank you.
I call upon the third negative speaker, Nisha Suba.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The topic of our debate tonight is that Australia should adopt 15-minute cities, and it is our firm contention that this proposition is not a favourable course of action. The first speaker has said that decreased car usage and the promotion of eco-friendly transportation modes contribute to a lower carbon footprint, aiding in the fight against climate change. However, reducing car usage and promoting eco-friendly transportation is undoubtedly a step in the right direction for mitigating climate change. We should recognise that achieving this goal requires significant changes in behaviour and cultural norms. Transitioning to alternative transportation modes such as walking, cycling, or public transit often involves a substantial shift in individual preferences and transportation habits. It may take time for people to fully adapt to these changes, and not everyone may find it even feasible. The first speaker has also tried to tell you that 15-minute cities will increase the healthiness of the population. While it may seem like an enticing prospect, it is important to delve into the practicalities of achieving this. This assumption assumes that proximity to amenities alone will result in healthier lifestyles. However, it's important to recognize that individual health outcomes are influenced by a myriad of factors, including personal choices and even socioeconomic conditions. While 15-minute cities may encourage healthier modes of transportation and more active lifestyles, achieving a genuinely healthier population requires comprehensive strategies that go beyond urban planning. It necessitates addressing the combination of these multifaceted factors, which may involve broader policies and initiatives that extend beyond the boundaries of urban designs and infrastructure. Therefore, while the concept of 15-minute cities holds promise, we should remain cautious about overestimating its direct impact on the overall healthiness of the population. The second speaker has tried to rebut by telling you that long commutes will still be available. This contradicts the affirmative team's stance, as its design aims to be able to get to places through walking or riding a bike. The second speaker has also said that this 15-minute city approach encourages efficient land use and reduces urban sprawl, and in combination reduces traffic congestion. This is wrong, because while the idea of reducing urban sprawl is commendable, it's important to recognize that some level of urban expansion may still be necessary to accommodate population growth and changing demographics. Even within the 15-minute city framework, there may still be a need for selective and well-planned urban expansion to meet the ever-evolving needs of communities. Moreover, achieving efficient land use and reducing urban sprawl may encounter resistance from various parties, including existing property owners and community interests. Striking a balance between densification and preserving community character and green spaces can be a complex and contentious process. The second speaker has also tried to tell you that 15-minute cities will better the Australian economy. Investments in the 15-minute city proposition can potentially boost economic activity within communities, and we should acknowledge these efforts. However, even with potential economic profits, it's important to consider the practicalities and potential trade-offs. Such a transition requires careful planning and management to ensure that economic growth is sustainable and benefits all members of the community. As our second speaker mentioned, this leads to the concern that the economic benefits might not be evenly distributed among all segments of the population. There may be challenges in ensuring that economic growth suppressed by 15-minute cities benefits everyone, including vulnerable and marginalized communities. Therefore, while 15-minute cities hold economic promise, we must remain vigilant. The third speaker has tried to rebut by saying that many cities worldwide are already adopting this model. Comparing the adoption of the 15-city model in different cities requires careful consideration of their unique demographics, geographical layouts, and historical context. For example, as our second speaker mentioned, Paris, with a larger population and a denser urban core, may be better suited for certain aspects of this model than a city with a smaller population and a different layout, such as the one under consideration. The extent on success of the implementation can vary significantly from city to city. It's essential to recognize that the degree of success in one place doesn't automatically guarantee success and the same outcomes anywhere else. The third speaker has also mentioned that it provides individuals choice. However, it's important to acknowledge that geographical diversity in Australia can present unique challenges that may not provide individuals choice. Even successful examples from other nations may not directly apply to Australia due to its distinctive conditions. Our first speaker has underscored that implementing 15-minute cities in Australia may not be feasible due to reliance on vehicles. She also spoke about the geographic hurdles in Australia. Our second speaker mentioned the 15-city concept in Australia is unnecessary as it has a one-size-fits-all approach. She also said the implementation of these cities may exacerbate wealth disparities. Ladies and gentlemen, we as a negative team strongly disagree that 15-minute cities in Australia is a good idea.